Meet Jenny, 34 years old, living in Alabama, and by all outward appearances, just a regular mom with a husband and a young son. But underneath that, Jenny has a secret. She's addicted to prescription painkillers, specifically Percocet, and not casually. We're talking 30 to 40 pills a day. That's not a habit anymore. That's a full-time job. And a habit like that doesn't run on nothing. It runs on cash. A lot of it. Illegally sourced pills at that volume cost real money, and Jenny doesn't have a job that covers it. So somewhere in the back of her mind, a question starts forming. How do I get people to just give me money? And in 2014, she finds her answer. It's disgusting. It's calculated. And it's about to work better than she ever imagined. Quick question before we go further. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city below. I want to see how far this story travels. If stories like this, the ones that start small and spiral into something you can't believe is real, are your thing, this channel is for you. Hit subscribe now, because where this goes next is going to test what you think people are capable of. Here's the story Jenny starts telling. She says she went in for a routine biopsy, and either the doctor or the nurse used instruments that weren't properly sterilized. As a result, she developed sepsis, a serious bodily reaction to infection. And somehow, according to Jenny, that sepsis turned into cancer. Medically, that's not really how any of this works. Sepsis doesn't become cancer. But Jenny isn't worried about medical accuracy. She's worried about sympathy, and sympathy doesn't fact-check. She starts posting about it on Facebook. Long, emotional posts about her diagnosis, her fear, her fight. And she doesn't stop at social media acquaintances. She tells her husband. And then, this is the part that should turn your stomach. She sits her 6-year-old son down and tells him too. Mommy's dying. Imagine being 6 years old and hearing that from your own mother, not because it's true, but because your mother needs it to be true so that people will give her money. Here's the thing that makes this story so unsettling. It works. It works immediately. People believe her. Sympathy pours in. And now that she has everyone's attention, Jenny moves to phase 2. Jenny sets up a GoFundMe. The pitch is simple. Help a mother battling cancer pay for treatment. People share it. Local churches get involved and encourage their congregations to donate. The money starts flowing in. Then she launches a second campaign. This one's called Mom Has Terminal Cancer Disney Trip. On the page, she writes that she wants to experience Disney World with her 6-year-old son before she dies within the year. Read that again. She is using her own child as an emotional prop to raise money for a vacation. And people donate. Of course they do. Who wouldn't want to help a dying mom give her son one last magical memory? Between those two GoFundMes alone, Jenny raises $38,000. But $38,000 isn't enough. So she goes further. She starts privately messaging close friends and family, asking for direct donations. She gets involved in her church's online prayer groups and starts posting prayers like, "Dear Jesus, I need money for my cancer treatment." Not a direct ask, just enough of a hint that the prayer group gets the message loud and clear, and they deliver. People in that prayer group start sending her money directly. Friends and family step up too, paying her utility bills, her phone bill, her mortgage. They fund a trip to Chattanooga, cover the hotel, even rent her a mobility scooter because she claims she can't walk far anymore. She gets her Disney trip. One especially generous friend sends her $23,000, not to a GoFundMe, directly to her. And where does all this money actually go? Not into a lavish lifestyle. No new cars, no designer bags. Mostly Amazon orders, bill payments, the occasional nice dinner. And you guessed it, a steady, uninterrupted supply of Percocet. If you think you've got this story figured out, comment "I'm not ready" below, because trust me, you don't. What's coming next takes this from disturbing to almost, you'd think faking your own cancer would be enough to keep the money coming. And to justify why she still needs so much of it, Jenny tells people her 6-year-old son has been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. She says he desperately needs a bone marrow transplant. Let that sit for a second. This isn't just Jenny lying about herself anymore. She's now attaching a fake, life-threatening illness to her own child, a child too young to understand what his mother is doing, let alone stop it. And predictably, the money keeps coming. People donate to help a sick little boy get the treatment he supposedly needs. Jenny goes to extreme lengths to keep the illusion airtight. She tells people she has multiple tumors in her brain and her abdomen. She claims she's on dialysis. She even gets her own mother to drive her to hospital appointments. Her mom drops her off outside every time, never goes in, never sees a doctor, never sees a waiting room. What Jenny actually does during those hours, nobody really knows. Eventually, Jenny's husband loses his job, which means her biggest, most reliable funding source dries up, the house they were relying on. So Jenny turns her attention to the people least equipped to say no to her, her elderly parents. She tells them she needs help with medical bills, and her parents, because what parent wouldn't start pulling from their retirement savings? Every month, they drive Jenny to the bank, withdraw cash, and hand it over to cover her expenses. At one point, Jenny tells them she needs to travel to Australia for an experimental cancer treatment unavailable in the US. Her parents don't hesitate. They give her $13,000. There was no treatment, there was no clinic. It was a vacation to the outback, funded entirely by two retirees who believed they were saving their daughter's life. Quick one for you. What's the weather like where you're watching this from? I'm always curious how many climates are tuned in for one of these. If you're new to this channel, welcome. What we do here is dig into cases like this one and tell them properly without cutting corners. If that's the kind of storytelling you want more of, subscribing genuinely helps this channel keep going. Now this next part is where the story stops being sad and starts being almost impossible to believe. At some point, Jenny decides the drip feed of donations isn't dramatic enough. So she tells her parents something enormous. She says she filed a lawsuit against the hospital that caused her cancer. She says the case has been working its way through the courts for a while now, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. The settlement? $17 million. But there's a catch, she says. The court is having issues processing the payment, so the money isn't in her hands yet. Now you'd think a $17 million settlement on the horizon would mean Jenny stops asking her parents for grocery money and mortgage help. It doesn't. She keeps asking, which means she needs to keep explaining why the millions still haven't shown up. So she builds a conspiracy. Jenny tells her parents that the Attorney General and the Governor of Alabama are secretly working together to withhold her settlement, that they're simply waiting for her to die from cancer so they never have to pay out and can keep the money for themselves. And then it gets even stranger. She claims that Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg personally traveled to Alabama to investigate why her settlement hadn't been paid. She says the media has been pressured into silence by these powerful politicians. That's why nobody's reporting on her case. And her parents, two people who love their daughter and grandson more than anything, believe every word of it. In their minds, there's a genuine political conspiracy unfolding, targeting their dying daughter. Jenny's father has had enough. He decides someone needs to expose this corruption, so he reaches out to a local journalist, hoping the press can do what the system won't: get his daughter her money. The journalist starts digging. He checks court records for the $17 million lawsuit. Nothing. No case, no filing, no record it ever existed. He checks with the doctor Jenny claims has been treating her cancer. That doctor has no record of Jenny as a patient ever. There is no cancer. There never was. The journalist takes what he's found to the police, and that's when everything Jenny built over years, the GoFundMes, the prayer group donations, the fake diagnoses, the imaginary lawsuit, starts collapsing all at once. Visual cue, mugshot photo. Police arrest Jenny. Here's her mugshot, the image that ended up in local news coverage once the story broke. Facing the mounting evidence, Jenny takes a plea deal. She's ultimately sentenced to 25 months in prison. 25 months for years of manufactured cancer, a fabricated diagnosis for her own 6-year-old son, a fake $17 million lawsuit, and a conspiracy theory that convinced her own elderly parents to drain their retirement savings. Somewhere between $500,000 was raised over the course of this scheme, pulled from churches, prayer groups, close friends and family who had absolutely no reason to doubt her. And maybe the hardest part of this story isn't the fraud itself. It's that the people she hurt most, her parents, her son, were the ones who trusted her the most. If this story left you as stunned as it left me, do 3 things before you go. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling me what part shocked you most, and subscribe so you don't miss the next case, because trust me, there are stranger ones coming. Let me know in the comments what case I should cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.